So, super important question for you guys. You've probably been asking this or been told this by other business coaches, but today we're going to dive deep in answering the question, do you need 2 years of clinical experience in order to start your private practice? And I want to take that even further. I want to extrapolate that question. Do you need 2 years of clinical experience in order to have a sustainable private practice? So for anybody who doesn't know me, I am Amy Plano. I am the reimbursement dietitian, and I help dietitians get credentialed, build the shit out of insurance, and make the money they deserve. I've been in private practice for 2 decades, and through this YouTube channel, I do my best to share free resources, tips, lessons on all of the things I have learned in the last 2 decades. So if you are a private practice dietitian or CNS, and you're looking for resources or just a veteran's perspective, click the subscribe button below this video so you know when we release videos. It's generally once a week, and it's generally on topics I see my coaching clients struggle with. So let's get back to it. So you are here today with me to talk through this question. Do you need 2 years of clinical experience in order to be successful in private practice? And so I really believe in my heart of hearts that many business coaches are selling you a big giant bag of shit when they tell you you do not need clinical experience. So we have to stop believing this, that we do not need these skills, because what I'm going to paint a picture of today is that these very skills are literally your product. So once again, even though I am the reimbursement dietitian, we're not going to talk about anything about reimbursement or insurance today. Instead, I'm going to take you guys through and examine why I really feel you need clinical skills. And then I'm going to give you an action plan on things you can do right now to improve your clinical skills or your counseling skills or your motivational interviewing skills. So I really think that we have to be asking the question, will your practice be here in 10 years if your counseling skills are not awesome, right? I really feel as business coaches, although that is a controversial topic, to me, it is not controversial at all, because I run a private practice and we provide medical nutrition therapy. Large piece of that is our ability to execute our counseling skills. So there's 3 things that every private practice needs, right? You guys need your business skills, you need people skills, and you need counseling skills, okay? All 3 of those skills are absolutely positively non-negotiable, right? So even if you have the best business skills in the world and the best people skills in the world, if you are not a good counselor, coach, dietitian, the rest of your practice will fall to shit. So I'm going to use the framework of this is that there are only 3 ways in which you to make money in your practice. You can sell to more people. So that means we need to get more people into your channels. We can increase the price of what you sell, or we can sell to the same people over and over again. Okay. I want to emphasize that last piece because I think most dietitians are out there trying to get more people into their practice, and they're trying to sell these crazy a la carte services, that maybe their patients don't need or want. But if we can simply keep the same amount of people within our community of patients, it's a lot less work. So the path of least resistance to actually having a sustainable practice is to retain your clients, right? Both of those other options, to sell more people and to increase the price, requires increased resources directing towards marketing. And if your original product, I'm saying product, but what I'm really referring to here is your counseling skills. If your original product of counseling is not good, it doesn't matter if you sell more people or you increase the price and the extra services that you sell, because your practice is going to be like a sieve, and we can keep on dumping shit in it, but it's going to keep on coming out. And so I really want to drive home the point that yes, you do need to be an amazing dietitian. Yes, you need to know business. Yes, you have to have good people skills, but we need to stop telling new dietitians and CNSs brand new to private practice that having clinical skills is not important. Clinical skills is really fucking important. So in order to do well in a practice, you have to have a good service to sell. And your service, once again, is this avenue of medical nutrition therapy. So when I say a good service, I mean that your patients have to see the value in coming to see you. Okay. Right. So people define value differently, but if your patients are not coming back, if you are not retaining your patients, there's a good chance that it could be your services as a dietitian are just not that good. And I know as coaches, we tend to kind of tiptoe around this piece because we are dietitians by trade. But I really want to hammer home the piece is that it is not just about being good at business. It is not just about taking insurance. It is not just about being a good customer service person with your patients. It is about your ability in most areas of nutrition to foster behavior change, right? We all know behavior change is hard, right? It's probably one of the hardest things to do. And so your job, your focus should be mastering the counseling skill of behavior change, right? That is your golden ticket to retaining your patients, right? You can have an amazing marketing coach, you can create awesome content, but the reality is the only, like, the path of least resistance is to continue to retain those clients. And so you have to become an amazing behavior change expert. And I don't mean to be a jerk, but there's a good chance you're just not there yet. Okay. So I know a lot of coaches tiptoe around this piece, but I can only speak to my experience. And I'm going to use two different stories to kind of illustrate this piece. So prior to going full time in my private practice, I worked at Yale in the diabetes center for 7 years. In the beginning, it was full time. And then I tapered off to part time. And then in that process, I became a CDE in all of the things. But while I made no money or very little money working clinical, the key piece that I was actually able to really do was learn how to counsel, right? So those were some amazing opportunities. And that was a learning season, right? So we have learning seasons and we have earning seasons. And I want to make sure that we do not mince the two. A lot of times we cannot do both simultaneously, right? So for 7 years, I was learning my craft of being an amazing outpatient dietitian, right? And so I did not just hang a shingle and open my practice and start accepting insurance. So I really honed in on my skill set because my service, I needed to be the best in my service, which was medical nutrition therapy. So I really believe as business coaches, we need to continue to elevate the bar for excellence. And when we are telling you guys that you do not need clinical experience, we are doing you a massive disservice because we are selling you a narrative that is not true, right? I do believe you need clinical skills. And I'm going to talk about different ways to get them if you don't have them. But that is like a really big piece of those three, right? People skills, business skills, and counseling skills. Those are the three buckets that I put that you need to hone your skills in. Another story, independent of my own story, was a lot of times when I am reviewing applications for my coaching program and I am going on discovery calls with you, one of the things you probably know if you've ever been on a call with me is like, I want to know your clinical experience and I want to know what you're doing as your day job. Because I know a lot of us want to transition to what we are doing, and maybe we don't have that skill set. But the reality is, I actually probably prefer that you work on that skill set before I teach you the insurance side, because your practice is going to fill up with insurance-based people. And it's going to be, once again, like that sieve, right? You're going to be getting people through the door because you accept insurance and you can help them, but you're not going to be able to retain them, right? So that is a key piece. And like I said, I think if it was true, if the statement you don't need 2 years of clinical were true, we would have more successful private practices, right? And we would have less business coaches because less of you would actually need our services, right? So I think that is a massive fallacy. I think that is a false statement. I do think you need counseling skills because essentially where I want to break this down is your counseling skills. So your sessions plus the services that you provide are the solution to your client's pain points, right? Your patients come to see you, whether you are in preventative services, GI services, eating disorders, because they have a pain point, right? They have something that they're struggling with that they want your expertise, right? And so your MNT services, whether you are cash-based or whether you are insurance-based, has to pose a plausible solution to those pain points, right? They're coming to you because there is a gap between where they are now, right, and where they want to be, right? And guess what? The thing that links them is behavior change, right? So once again, if we do not understand human behavior and we do not understand how and why people do things, our MNT skills of telling them what to eat, how to eat are really not going to be helpful, right? Because at the end of the day, it's about behavior change, right? That's why when we give patients meal plans, it's like we all scratch our heads because we know a meal plan is not what they need, right? They need support and accountability, with behavior change. And that meal plan is going to fall to the wayside because that's not what they need, right? And so behavior change and support changing their behaviors is what they need most from you. And so it's not, and just remember too, I'm not going to go into the deets of like motivational interviewing, but stages of change, and this is something I remember really struggling with during my internship at Yale, was that I thought every single patient that came to me was in the action stage of change, right? They wanted the meal plans, they wanted the amazing handouts. But the reality was most of them were contemplative or pre-contemplative. And so me throwing a ton of resources at them was not very helpful because they were not really ready to take action, right? They were not really ready to change, right? So that's why I think it is so critical. And we miss this piece as business coaches, informing you guys that this is a critical skill, that you have to offer. So if you could have the best business model in the world, but unless the service you offer is incredible and your patients see the value in it, right? They are not going to come back. And there's a million and one different equations out there for retention. There's different ones that I teach my coaching clients, but you could probably just Google retention, patients, healthcare, and you can do a little experiment just within your own practice. And I would probably use a month as your starting point, and I would look at the number of customers at the end of that month, the number of new customers you acquired, and then the number of customers at the start period, right? So because you really want a number that's probably greater than 85%, right? You're going to get a percentage from that. Okay. And so I really believe in my heart of hearts, we need to stop telling you guys you do not need clinical experience because the clinical experience is literally your service, right? I don't care if you have a membership. I don't care if you have an awesome course. Your ability to support your patients through behavior change is going to come in clutch 100% of the time, right? So lots of different suggestions here. So now you know why it's important, and now you're going to tell other dietitians why we have to stop telling you this false narrative that you don't need clinical experience. But that's not helpful unless I tell you some things that I find would be helpful to get better skill sets. So obviously nobody wants to hear this one, but I'm going to say it anyway because this is what I did. Work clinical for a set period of time so you can get experience, right? Just want to reiterate, I worked at Yale for 7 years. And I actually really liked my job working outpatient. And I learned an amazing skill set. And I was also offered opportunities that I would not have if I jumped right into private practice on my own. I needed those 7 years in order to build an amazing sustainable practice that is here 2 decades later, right? But without those clinical skills and experience, I don't think my practice would have been sustainable. So number one, if you can, Number one is stop believing the narrative that people are telling you that you do not need clinical experience. Number two is take a job clinical, even if it's just for a couple of years and you don't love it, because you need to practice. You cannot get better at a skill you do not practice, right? And motivational interviewing, coaching, counseling, renditions of MNT, those are all things that we have to practice. So my suggestions would be, you can hire a coach. There's lots of dietitian coaches out there that teach clinical skills. You could go work under another dietitian. Mm, and maybe you're making less money, but that is a learning season. That is not a earning season. You can ask your patients if you can record your sessions with them, because then you can go back and, like we do in the sports world, right? Like we review game day videos to see how we can get better. Obviously, take a step back, and review your processes. Like, how are you working with clients? Looking at your retention numbers, that's number four. And then asking your patients for feedback, right? I think that's a piece that a lot of us don't do. We do that a ton in my practice, but almost 100% of all of your problems in your business can be solved by talking to your patients, right? And sometimes the truth hurts. I can tell you because sometimes we get these surveys back and I'm like, oh, wow, like this is kind of a flaming dumpster fire of shit that I need to fix. But that is how we get better. Okay. The first step is understanding that we're not probably as good as we think. And then the second piece is self-reflecting on our skill set and then asking ourselves, like, how can I get better, right? Because I can bring as many people as I possibly can in a marketing standpoint, but if I cannot retain them with my skill set and deliver them value, they are not coming back, right? And so if you need suggestions for coaches, I'm always happy to provide them. Just put your questions in the chat below. I will link some of the different business coaches who work with dietitians to hone in and practice their counseling skills. But stop right now, like wherever you are watching this video, listening to this video, stop believing the business coaches that tell you you do not need to be amazing at counseling skills, right? You need to be good, and good enough probably will not cut it in a sustainable practice, right? I don't care where your practice really is in 2 years. I want to know where you are in 10 years. And I can guarantee you, if you have not honed in on that skill of mastering counseling skills, becoming a behavior change coach, in all things MNT that are associated with that, no matter how good your business skills are, and no matter how good your people skills are, it is hard to have a sustainable practice. So love your thoughts. Drop them in the comments below. Like, does any of this resonate with you? Like, did you go into private practice and then realize you weren't as good as you thought and then needed to go back and work for somebody else? And then what did that do for your future? So let me know in the comments below. I know this is a controversial topic, but I gotta be honest with you, it is not controversial for me. I am very opinionated. You need counseling skills in order to be successful in a private practice. End of story, period.